we go. Another episode of Schwami Streams is coming your way. Happy to be here. It's Wednesday, and it's noon, and I am streaming, and I am having fun. Back again for another week of writing some code and writing some unit tests, and like I said, having some fun. Schwami Streams. My motto is coding, fun, and a bit of chaos. And so far, the bit of chaos part hasn't failed me yet, although I think I'm doing pretty good today because it looks like my audio is working. Some days I start this thing out and I'm just talking and nobody can hear me. So I hope that doesn't happen today. What are we going to do today? Let's talk about that. In the past couple of episodes, I've been working on writing code and writing some unit tests. And I'm sort of on a never-ending quest to make unit testing easier and make coding easier as well. To me, we want to make these things as easy as possible, as easy as we can for ourselves. So I'm going to introduce a couple of libraries, one library and one other pattern that I think will make my tests better. And so I think I'm going to get started with that. Let's see. Quiet day today. If you are joining me here live, welcome to the show. Oh, what was that? Something just popped. Got an audio problem there. Ooh, that was scary. I have a loose wire or something like that down below my desk, and every now and then, I think it's like my subwoofer is down there. So anyway, what was I talking about? Yeah, so we're going to get into running some tests and stuff like that. If you're watching live, welcome to the show. Do me a favor. If you're watching on the archive and you like what you see, subscribe. We're going to get into, and if you're on Mixer and Twitch, follow me now. That would be great. I appreciate it. So let's talk about, let me go to my screen here. And that's got my screen. So now you can see some code. So let's take a look. So, oh my God, what's going on now? What is that? I'm getting a whole bunch of stuff in the chat. Csharp Fritz's coding squad is here. All your base belong to us. Oh my God. Hello. All these people that I guess, I'm not that familiar with all the streaming, stuff that goes on, but I don't know. Is this what a raid is? I don't know, because all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of people popping in, and they're saying all your base belong to us, which is a classic line. So thank you, welcome. Wow, I don't know what's going on here. Welcome to this show, and thanks for joining in. Let's see what it says. You've been rated by Csharp Fritz. Yeah, thank you. That's that's so cool. Hello, Csharp Fritz says we've rated you. We are here to watch and join your stream. Well, hello, and hello, Copper Beardy. I'm going to try to keep up with all the chat. What I was talking about doing today is trying to make some of these unit tests better. And I was going to introduce a library called Fluent Assertions. So having said that, I'm going to get right into that and take a look. So let's see, what do I have? Let's go into my test project. And I'm going to manage a NuGet package. And I'm going to add Fluent Assertions. Pretty easy to add NuGet packages, as everybody should know by now. Looking at Fluent Assertions, you can see right here, 39, almost 40 million downloads. If you're wondering if it's a good, safe package to use, that is certainly seems valid. I used it a while ago and then sort of got off track with it, and now I'm sort of going back to using it again because I think it's really nice. And I'll talk about what it does in a minute. Let's install this package. DNI Stream says, what's it like versus XUnit's default assertions, etc.? Well, that's what I'm going to show next. That's a great question, right? And Fluent Validation is another Fluent library, right? So it'll get that same kind of feel. Let's go in and take a quick look at a unit test I have. This unit test all it does is it copies the title from one object to another. What it does isn't really that important right now. What we want to talk about is the assertion down here. And in this case, I say Assert.Equal, and it's episode.Title and dto.Title. Those are the values that I'm trying to convert over. And in this case, it's not super hard to read, but it's just weird, right? It doesn't really state in a sentence-like manner what I want to have happen. Whoa, I don't want to do that. With Fluent Assertions, what I do is I think I have to add a using statement. Let's do that first. Using Fluent Assertions. Okay. And now we'll see the way this kind of lights up. And I think it's a pretty cool experience. So I'm going to say I want the dto.Title. What's going on here? I don't know why that's popping up. The dto.Title should, and you get this really nice syntax, that typical Fluent kind of syntax. If anybody's watching that's ever done Fluent types of things before, it should, and then I can say be, and there's a couple ways I can do this. I can say be, or I can be same, but I'm going to say should be. I'm going to say episode title, right? And now, well, let's talk about how this looks, right? I've received 100 messages. Oh, wow. There's all sorts of stuff going on. Assertions plus usings. I don't know what's going on. Sorry. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on here, but this is fun. So let's take a look at the difference between these two. This kind of reads it as a sentence. The DTO title should be the episode title, right? I mean, I added the in there. But to me, this is really clean. And this is a simple example, so it's not super complicated, but there's other stuff I can do in here. I don't have a ton of unit tests in here, so I can actually do some examples, but first let's take a look at a different, I think this, okay, so here's another example where I have this test that says if page number, and what I'm going to do after Fluent Assertions, by the way, is we're going to go back and start renaming these tests in a better fashion, something that just will read a little cleaner and stuff like that, using like a when and then kind of pattern. So in this case, I can say assert does not contain, what I'm trying to find out here, right? It says if the page number is greater than 0, then returns no message. And that basically means that returns no message. I think that's a mistake. Then returns, if page number, this test looks like it's bad. Oh my God, we may come back to that. Let's come back. If page size is greater than 0, returns no message. Why would it return no message? Page size, oh, does not contain. Yeah, I'm sorry. You know what? I get confused when I see these does not contain. That's just such a good example of maybe how the assertions can be better. I get confused every time I see like a not in here. So this basically says that this results object or collection should not contain this message. And I don't think that reads so well. So let's see if I do this with Fluent. And let's go ahead and have my using Fluent Assertions. Now I could just automatically add that using statement as people were saying earlier, but trying to be proactive now. So I can say results should. Now, is there a not? Should not? I don't know if there's a should. Let me see here something. This is a list of strings. So I'm going to say should. I haven't even done this one yet. Let's try should not. Is there a not contain? Yeah, there you go. Should not contain. This is so great. And I'm not that familiar with this library, so I'm a little bit winging it here. Should not contain, and I'm just going to say this. Okay, now those are just, this is a simple example where I'm looking at a list, and I'm using that Fluent syntax and saying results should not contain page number must be greater than 0. And that's because the page number is greater than 0. The page is 5, of course, right? So, to me, that's just a nice, cleaner way to write these assertions, right? And I could go through, I have a lot of similar stuff in these. Here's a contains, so I could say something like result.Should, and I'm really just renaming these things because, I'm not writing the test right now. Obviously, I've already done that. Should contain, and I'm going to say, oh, you know what else is not working? Or hang on, let's take a look at something. My live unit testing doesn't seem to be working. Why isn't my live unit testing working? Let's see. I have live unit. Oh, my live unit testing session is not started. I love live unit testing. Philly.net is now hosting. Thanks, Philly.net, for hosting me. Appreciate that. Well, let's see. Yeah, now I'm lighting up. Don't you love the way this lights up? If you're using live unit testing, it is so cool that I could say, well, I can, if you're not familiar, I can change my test, and of course this will fail. It should say the result should contain. Anytime I change this, my test just runs. Visual Studio making my life so much easier for testing. And now I think my test assertions are easy to read too. Let's take a look at some of the other things you could do with Fluent Assertions. So I could say something like, let me think, what else is in here? So let's say I have a Boolean. What's cool about this is something. I don't even know what this is going to be. Equals true. Okay, I've got a Boolean. So what's cool about these Fluent Assertions is, I guess, they're just extension methods on top of everything, right? So this is something, it's just a bool. And let's see, as soon as I go in there, look at that. I get my Fluent Assertions in here. So it makes it so easy. So I could say should, and should is a method, right? I could say should be true, and that's nice and easy, right? Look at the way that reads. Is something should be true. I love that. Versus assert.true. This isn't so bad either, but is something, I don't know. These are simple examples. Let's see. Space Shot says, what does it mean when you say fluent? Is that part of C#? And DNI Stream says, I may very well have to go at this tomorrow. Yeah, DNI Stream, it's just so easy. It's just such a nicer way. Space Shot, back to your question. I mentioned, I kind of glossed over it kind of quickly earlier. Fluent is just a, what is Fluent? Fluent is a style, I guess. I've added the Fluent Assertions library, and Fluent is this style where the programming API, I guess is probably the right word, writes out like a sentence. And, you could say sort of like this is, well, I don't want to do this because that's a keyword, but, my thing should do something, right? That's like a Fluent type of interface versus some other, kind of hard to explain. It's one of those things that, like, when you see it, it starts to make sense, but Fluent is not a .NET thing or a C# thing. Fluent is a style. Fluent is a style. Oh, it uses a functional model. That's interesting. Is that functional? I didn't know that. Thank you, DNI Stream. I don't do functional programming, although some of the stuff I do sort of lends itself to functional programming, the way I try to write my classes. But anyway, we can come back to that. Voltschrott says, I'm not sure how I feel about this syntax, but it's easily readable. I'll give it that. If you don't feel great about this syntax, you know what I say? I say cool, right? This is an example where it might be good for me. It might not be great for you. The fact is, these two things, these two statements are the same. Neither of them are actually changing the test itself. And so if it's something that seems more readable for you, then I say, go for it. And if it's something that just feels weird to you because you've been writing tests for a long time and you just want to see that assert keyword at the beginning or something like that, then stick with what works for you. I should say, of course, Fluent Assertions is a NuGet package. I am not associated with them. There's probably other, there's probably other packages that are similar. This one's pretty popular. And, so this is a great example of do what works for you. I've said before, when I started this unit test project, I'm using XUnit. You want to use NUnit, you want to use MS Test. Hey, have fun. Use the one that works. the tooling in these cases isn't always so important as what you're accomplishing with the tools. So DNI Stream says, the easier code is to read, the better for me. I'd rather not have to think too hard when I'm writing complex logic. And that, thank you, is the whole goal. What I said, I think I put some tweets out when I was going to start the stream today saying that I want to make testing easier, right? I like making writing code and testing easier. And that was kind of what I'm going for here, is I like the way this looks. So you can play around with this library. And what else? I'm just trying to think. So you can do, in this collection, well, if I had a collection of, I could do something else. Like in results, I could say should, this is the list. This is just a list of strings. So it's not too complicated. I don't know if I have anything right here to test that's better, but I could say should have a count, right? That's a cool feature. I could say should have a count of 1 or something like that. I could say should contain, and in here, I think I can do something like, or is this the one where I can put like a lambda in here? Yeah, so I could say, well, so the fact is result is just a string, right? But I could say should contain r dot, wow, something's going on because my live unit testing seems to crash again. And I wonder if I've got something that's not compiling well in here that's causing that to crash. I don't know if anyone is familiar with live unit testing and why it would cause us to stop each time. Something's going on here. I've seen that happen before. I'm going to have to take a look at that. Oh, and it crapped out. Again, I said a bad word possibly. Again, let's see what's in the thing here. Build solution, build completed with failures. Errors were logged under. All right, so let's, before I do it, usually it doesn't care if your code is compiling, but I'm going to build my solution just to see if there's some other big errors going on. Live unit testing usually keeps going even when your code is not in a compilable state. But look, the testing came back. Maybe I'm just misunderstanding. Maybe it just pauses itself when it's broken right now. See, I get that pause. That's what I'm used to seeing. I'm not used to seeing the icons just disappear. Anyway, they're staying in there now. Let's see what happens. So I could say should starts with page. I guess we can do that. There's another example. There's another example of something you could do with Fluent Assertions. So you can really build out all kinds of stuff. I have a mistake there. Sorry, should starts with page. So that one should work too. So that's an example. Now, one thing you can't do with Fluent Assertions, I'm not a fan of live unit testing in C#. Tends to crash too often for my liking. I can't argue with you because it just crashed on me, right? But I've been using it more and more, and I find that like some days it just hangs in there and works great. And then some days it does seem to crash a bit, but I don't know. I think it's worth it. Again, personal preference. Even when I try to use, even when you use third-party tools such as Resharper, yeah, who knows? I don't know. Let me show you one thing that you can't do with Fluent Assertions, because you might want to just try this immediately thinking that you'll be able to do this. So if I look at my orchestrator tests, a lot of the assertions, if you want to call them assertions, and I guess they really are things like this, where I want to see if my validator object, if my validator got called and it has a validate method. Now here I'm using the mock framework, MOQ, just to catch people up to speed if you haven't been on my stream before. Here's an interesting point. SpaceShop points out that live unit testing is VS Enterprise. Good point. That is a good point, and it's hard to remember those things to point those out. I have the tools and I forget sometimes. So live unit testing might not be available to you. Even if it's not, it doesn't matter. You can always come in and go to the unit testing console and fire up your tests. There's a lot of ways to do it. What I wanted to talk about real quick is that while mock is verifying that this validate method got called only once, okay, this is mock, and as far as I know, there's no there's no Fluent Assertions for MOQ, like that library, mock. Now, one thing I can do, although I'm kind of interested, is to check, because I've never seen it before, but watch me Google it now, and it'll just like be there. So is there a way to do Fluent Fluent Assertions for MOQ, something like that, right? Let's see. Maybe there is. So here's something, a Fluent Assertion helper for mock. This might be interesting. So maybe, and I don't know if I want to install this, but here's someone on GitHub, Risa Williams. So what's going on here in chat? If you want to play with it, I guess you can use the Visual Studio Preview Edition. That's a good point. Okay, so let's just see here. So it looks like I could do this Fluent Assertions thing, and it says mock setup. That looks a lot like this. Oh, mock of dot setup. I don't know if I would want to use the Fluent Assertions for the setup. I think I would want to use it on the verify. And while this library might have it, it doesn't jump out at me right off the bat. DNI Stream says that looks awful. And if you're talking about what's on my screen here, yeah, I don't know. This is setup though. And so if you look at mock, and I think you already gave that you said that you like mock, but this is the setup method of mock. The assertions is this verify method. And so it would be nice if we could do something like, let's see, get history DTO Validator. I would love to be able to do something like this. Was called something like this, like times once with arguments, or with, and maybe I pass the DTO as the argument or something because I'm calling the validate method. This would be really cool. Hey, who wants to like take a side project and build this? I don't even know how you do it, but underneath the covers, there's a project for you. No, there's a project for you. There's a project for you. It would be cool. I wonder how hard. Easy, yeah. Maybe it is easy, really. I don't know. But it is syntax is really cool in here on mock. And I've had some fun talking about that before. So that's like what you can do with Fluent Assertions, right? But and what I was also showing here is what you can't do with Fluent Assertions. Listen, I know people have rated my channel, and maybe I could take this opportunity to say, please, if you're here now, subscribe and follow me on Twitch. I know a lot of people come in there from Twitch. I happen to also be on the bad word, Mixer. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. You guys on Twitch hate Mixer. I'm also, the archives for my stream are on YouTube, youtube.com/Shwami says, Shwami streams, sorry. I'll put it in the chat here. YouTube, I can't spell it, youtube.com/Shwami streams is where you'll find my archive. And I also want to point out tonight, if you like all this streaming stuff, tonight, the Dev Talk Show is another stream that I'm involved. And Space Shot, who's here, I've seen him today. He's part of that. It's basically me, Rich Ross, and Chris Gomez, and we do a stream Wednesday nights at 8:30 called the Dev Talk Show, where we talk about all kinds of stuff. We do some code samples. We have some guests. We do a variety of stuff. Last week, our guest was, look at this. You can see I'm wearing my Blazer Roadshow shirt. I don't know who's attended the Blazer Roadshow so far, but Carl Franklin was in Philadelphia last week doing the Blazer Roadshow. We had him come in as a guest afterwards, and we talked to him for a while on the Dev Talk Show. You can see that archive, video.thedevtalkshow.com, and I'll put that in here too. Video.thedevtalkshow.com is where you could find archives for the Dev Talk Show. If you don't mind checking that out, I would appreciate it, right? And hey, if you haven't checked out Carl Franklin's Blazer Roadshow, I think Jeff Fritz, who you guys are all coming from his stream, he was talking about Blazor today, if I'm not mistaken. And Blazor's pretty cool. You guys, if you're caught up with Fritz, you may be way ahead of what Carl's showing on the Blazor Roadshow. But if you're not familiar with Blazor, the Blazor Roadshow is probably coming to a location near you. Anyway, that's like enough commercials, right? Let's get back to the stuff we want to talk about. So let me just close some things here. I don't like to have everything open. I don't know about you guys. It freaks me out when all these things are open. I like closing everything. DNI Stream says it's not near him. I don't know where you live, DNI Stream, but that's too bad. It's a cool show. But you can watch. He is going to have He is going to have a copy of it that gets... in the UK. Well, it is going international. The Blazor Roadshow does have some plans for international dates. Don't really know that much about when and where. So sorry for you guys that are in the UK, but Carl said he is going to post it online. So they're recording it, and I think they're waiting till they get most of them out of the way. You can understand that. They want to get a nice live audience for those things. But he is going to put it up online, including all the source code and all kinds of stuff. He's going to share all that stuff. So the other thing I wanted to do today... Wow, a lot of people here from the UK. Hell, welcome, international folks. Very exciting. Let's see, what time is it? For you guys, this is a good time of day, right? It's, about 5:30 in the afternoon, I think. And for us, it's lunchtime. Jess Chadwick says, what is it? What is what? I don't know. Maybe you're talking about, I don't know, I got a little confused in the comments here. What is it? It we're talking about was the Blazor Roadshow, maybe? The what not near you? Not really sure. Blazor Roadshow is Carl Franklin going around talking all about Blazor. Maybe that's what you're asking. Karnak, people are asking about Karnak. Karnak is the keylogger. Check it out right now. I'm going to hit build, and there it is. Control-Shift-B, build solution. I love this. Karnak rocks, making life easy. And sort of hopefully... And I'm starting to use Karnak now on my presentations, not just for streaming, but how great would it be if you're in the room and we're doing a presentation at a user group or a meetup and you want to see those things. I think it works really well. Oh gosh, I'm all over the place. Let's get back to looking at some of the tests and thinking about renaming these things. So I have this pattern here where I have folders in my test project that match the folders in my real code. So in my backend project, I have this folder called Mini. Mini is just a name I like to use where it's like these little single responsibility things that my orchestrators call all the time. And so in there, you'll see mini.converter, mini converters, and I have an episode history converter and other things. So down here, I have my mini, and I have my converters folder and my tests. And underneath that, what I do is I create a folder for all of the tests that are going to test the episode history converter. And then I make a class with the name of the method that I'm testing. So the method we're testing on this episode history converter is called to.DTO because it's going to take this episode and it's going to convert it into this DTO. Pretty simple. Usually my classes have more than one method, and if they do, then you have more than one file in here. But let's come back to that. I have this file called to.DTO, and so what I have then is these different tests, and this one's called copies title. That's called mapping. Yeah, that is called mapping. I don't like using the word mapping. I call them converters. This is another one of those things that everyone has their preference. To me, I was just having a conversation with somebody at work yesterday, and in their code, they had something called like an episode mapper. I'm just typing some text in here so we all know what I'm talking about. And it said .map, right? And it took like an X and a Y, right? And to me, this, when I read it, I said, oh my God, they're using AutoMapper. And they weren't using AutoMapper. And it read so much like they were using AutoMapper that I was saying that that's why I don't like to say mapper.map, because it not that it matters if it's using AutoMapper, but we weren't. And it just sort of like everyone's, yeah, you guys are saying on streaming, it kind of looks like AutoMapper. So I use the word converter. Heck, personal preference. Doesn't matter what you call it. But what I want to talk about here is is the name of this thing, copies title. And I'm thinking now that I want to go to more of a, what do you call it? Like almost like a BDD kind of naming convention. IMapper. Yeah, that's IMapper stuff. That's AutoMapper, like, kind of syntax, right? And I'm just trying to stay away from that a little bit. So I think, the name of this test could be better, right? And so really what it should say is that the name of the test should help me set up the test. I find that if I name my test correctly, writing the test is so much easier. I'm immediately focused on exactly what I want to do. And, you say that's your mapper. Oh, cool. Well, you got your own mapper. That's pretty similar. And you have generics in there, which is cool. Very basic, enables DI unit testing. Yeah, there's so many cool things you can do. There's so many cool things you can do in code to make things just, reusable and generic and stuff like that. So anyway, let's take a look at what I might call this thing. And the BDD thing sort of says like a given, when, and then, right? Or I should say given, when, and then, right? Now, I'm kind of playing around with this live on the stream because I'm not really that familiar with this syntax. Oh, I guess I need to put something like that on there just to make it compile. Oh, and this is a dash, so that's not going to be happy. So this is the BDD thing. So you're setting up your test to say, given this circumstance, or given this object, when something happens, then I expect something else to happen. And so what I would probably do here is say when the thing I'm going to the episode, this is a district. So I could say sort of like when the show history DTO object has a title, then the title is copied to the, what am I creating, episode, right? Now this is pretty long, and I'm not sure how I like that, but I don't really mind when names for things are long. Can I post a link to the mapper and a concrete implementation? Can I post a link to the mapper and a concrete implementation? I don't know what you mean, the mapper and a concrete implementation. Do you mean in chat? Well, yeah, I know you mean post it in chat. Do you mean my code? You want to you want to see what my your map? Yeah. Yeah, D&I stream, sure. Promote away. I get what you're saying. You're being polite. Oh, that's so nice of you. Of course, sure. Why don't you go ahead and do that? And I'll take a look at it too. That's a cool idea. I guess you probably have it up there on in GitHub, or maybe you even have a little package for it on NuGet or something. I don't know, but yeah, go ahead, please. Promote away. Thank you. Love this interactive conversation stuff. So I could have this long title. I don't know what the given here is, quite frankly. I mean, I think that given is like given a converter, because that's sort of what I'm given, right? I don't know. I'm starting to use this syntax, and I've been just blowing off the given part and just sort of saying when show history DTO has a title, then the title is copied to the episode, right? That's what I want to do in my test. He says it's just in a project, very, very simple to do, but allows you to easily unit test. Wow, that's really cool. I will check that out. I appreciate that. So what do you guys think of this naming syntax versus copies title? Does anybody have an opinion on that? I've seen some opinions in the chat earlier on other things. It's long, but it's really explicit. Copper Beardy says you prefer the longer, and I tend to as well. And I think what's going to also happen with this is if I look at my test, you know what I'm going to do? Watch this. Here's my test runner. I'm going to fail this test. I'm going to make this test fail, and I'm going to say should be title is copied from episode 2 DTO. That's another way of doing it. Title is copied from episode. One of the things I like about this pattern, so in a bubble of this test, a lot of names would make sense. I think the reason this when then pattern is really popular is because as you write more tests, you know that it always starts off with the like sort of the if or the when, and then the then part comes afterwards, and I think it helps. But what I want to do is I want to fail this test for a second, because I think what's supposed to happen is, I don't know why I put DDD in there, but if you're a fan of domain-driven design, maybe that's what I meant in my mind. I don't think it was. I think it was just the first letter my finger came to on the keyboard. Oh, look, see, live unit testing's not working again. Well, so much for that. I might have a version that's not up to date or something like that. Well, that passed. Oh, there it goes. It failed. Ooh, I got nervous. I thought it passed for a second. So now what should happen is, I think these are supposed to read out nicely. And so it's supposed to say sort of like, when show history DTO has a title, then the title is copied to the episode. And then there's some, maybe this isn't the thing, but there are some tools that sort of show. Let's go to the regular unit testing window and see if that shows it better. This is I'll admit I'm winging it here, where I thought there was, the concept is it's supposed to read out like a really nice sentence of like why it fails. It says, as long as it gives a good idea of what you're testing, I'm happy. I can't argue with you, Copper Beardy. Like, that is definitely my goal, to make it something that is readable, that tells you what it does, and that does it. I think one of the things I talk about a lot on this stream is that in the real world, I help set standards for software development teams in my organization. And I find that by putting something like this in place and saying, guys, name your test. And by the way, when I say guys, that's the sort of generic guys and girls. And I certainly don't mean to exclude anybody. But if you're not familiar with me, and I hope that's okay with you, guys means everybody. So when by using this pattern, it's really helpful when you're talking to a team and you're trying to get everybody to sort of embrace a pattern, that giving them this framework, let's say, and a framework is a really weak term here, really not what I want to say, but by giving them this framework of when and then, it makes it easy for people to follow when they're not familiar with this pattern. So again, that's my need, and it might not be your need. And so clearly I say, yeah, if the test name is good, then go with it, right? And Copperbeardy says, with a name like that, even no technical person can understand what it's doing. That's the idea. Now, what I wanted to do is go back to unit test. Where is the unit test? Maybe it's like view unit tests. Where's the unit test explorer? Where's the thing I want to go to? I don't know. Is it here? View, right? View. I didn't see it there. So where's the unit test? This is where I look at this thing and I glass over, because I'm like, I can never find anything in here. It's probably under other windows. Test. Maybe it's called Test Explorer. Test Runner Explorer. Is that the one I want? I don't know. Let's see. It might open on a different page, different screen. Didn't open. Oh, it's down here. Okay. Let's move this off screen. Got a bunch of different monitors going here. So, what happened to my Test Runner Explorer? No, that's not what I wanted. How do I get Test Explorer unit? Test Explorer is probably what I want. This is it right here. Test results, Test Explorer. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Sometimes it's hard to find things. And so here's the Test Explorer. I want to see, this looks a lot like the live testing window. But I know that there are some, maybe this is in another plugin. So I'm really going off here. Test tab next to debug. Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. Hey, look, everybody's in here. Like Angry Little Hamster's in here with comments, and Mike Holloway 24. Thanks for trying to help me out with this stuff. So what I was saying is, I know there are some libraries, and I don't have it yet, but there are some libraries that export out the results of your test and turn everything into these nice sentences. And I think when you have this, there are libraries that will, and if anyone knows one of these things, feel free to share that. It would like write it in the thing that says, then failed because, or something like that. I don't know. And then it would say the message. Oh, by the way, that's something else I didn't talk about. We can put messages in here. Well, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm talking about with this thing, but the naming convention supposedly makes reading the reports easier, right? Hey, you know what? I was just realizing, so I didn't talk about this feature. I can go into here and say be this, and then supposedly, I think it's a different parameter here. Because, okay, so the string is going to be, should be this because that is the correct value. I don't know why, in this case, maybe adding a special message in here isn't all that exciting. But if I go back to my live unit testing window here, I should see the test that says expected string to be DDD with a length of 3 because that is the correct value. Now, obviously, it's a silly example, but adding that custom message in here kind of makes things... Oh, God, I have too many windows here. Let me dock this, maybe. Kind of makes things easier by having that message in here. And that's a feature of Fluent Assertions that I forgot to put out. So, I don't know. Let's back this out and go back to what I had before. Oh, my gosh. Control-Z. Oh, I had more Control-Zs than I even thought. You know what? Let's go there. That's what I want to leave. And I'm going to leave it like that. So... I think this is a better name, and I think what I'm going to do is go through these other things. This one is going to be copies details. I'm going to kind of go through, and eventually, with my code, I'm going to go through all these things and say when show history has a description. I don't know if I want to do that on the stream and go through every one of these things. Then the description. So another way I could do this, and again, I'm kind of curious how detailed people think we should go with this. When to show history, let's leave the top one with the full text. And what if I said something like when show history, how about when there is a description? And where's the there, right? So maybe this is the given. Oh, maybe I should say something like given a... I'm starting with an episode. Given an episode, when there is a description, oh, maybe that's where the given comes in. Given an episode. This is the, I was thinking that the given referred to the system under test, but in my case, it's almost like given an episode, when there is a description, then the description is copied to the episode, and that's also long. And so could you say something like then description is copied? You know, like how distinct do I want to get with this? Then the description is copied. I don't know. Copied isn't maybe not the right word, but I'm really not sure what I want to do about some of these things. I'm trying to get a feel for like, you know, we were talking about this before. Some people say this type of convention is good, this type of convention is bad. It really comes down to what works for you, or in this case, what works for me. Given an episode when there is a description, then the description is copied. That's not bad. Given an episode, I wonder if I could say instead of when, I could even say with, right? Maybe the when can support other, what are these things called? Other, what are those? Like descriptors, like when or with. That might be cool. Given an episode with a description, then the description is copied. I kind of like that. So this would be sort of like saying to DTO, given an episode with a description, then the description is copied. I spelled description wrong. Did anybody notice that? Oh, look at that. Oh my gosh. As I said it, I looked over and Voltskrat, if I'm saying that right, got my back, and so I don't know how to do this. Someone tell me right now. I feel like I'm supposed to give out some kind of like a reward to people when they're watching. I don't know how to do any of that stuff. All you Csharp Twitch followers, I know you guys do like all this stuff with like I don't know what these things are called. There's like little currency stuff and prizes and all kinds of stuff. And I'm a noob to this whole thing. Still trying to find my way through all this streaming stuff. So I'm just like, oops, excuse me. I'm just winging it. But thank you for catching the description typo right as I was. You probably caught it before me because the stream is delayed and you write it in the chat, which means you caught it way before I did. So thank you. Oh my gosh. Let's see. So I'm going to leave the naming for now. My spelling are terrible. That is why I have Spell Checker extension Visual Studio. It's amazing what will be caught now in Visual Studio in terms of spelling. And when I'm at work, I think it might be a Resharper feature. I'm not really sure. Resharper, I think. So I have certain acronyms that we use. Like, let's say this was called the Schwami Streams. Well, here's the one, Schwami Streams. It likes that word. Resharper, I think, or maybe it's something else, says, well, that doesn't seem like a word to me or something like that. And you can add it to the dictionary. Like, it's picking up words and all these things. It's almost like if I was to say something like, some kind of acronym like, not HTML. I want to use like a made up acronym like PHHH, like let's say that was a thing. It would give me like a little squiggles just under the HHH to say that it's not familiar with that. I'm guessing it's a Resharper thing because I don't have Resharper on this computer here. With CodeRush, you can have spell checking and add to the custom dictionary. It must be Marcus Voice Programmer. That must be what I'm talking about because I was talking about Resharper. Resharper and CodeRush are similar tools, and so I have a feeling that is what those libraries offer. There's so many tools. I don't know what you guys use. On this machine, I'm using things like, what do you call it? Mads has all these what do you call it? Mads, I guess he's on the Visual Studio team, or is he on the, where's my Web Essentials, right? I've got Web Essentials on here, and I'm trying to limit this. One of my goals on this computer was to try to limit it from the paid plugins and see how that goes. So I've got a bunch of stuff in here, but I haven't installed Resharper. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of Resharper. Resharper is great. I've been using it for a really long time, and I kind of want to say, like, well, what's the experience like without it? And after a couple of months, I may come down and say, yeah, I don't like this experience without it. I'm going to go back to it. There's a few things that I really miss. I've also got an extension, if I can find the name of it, called, there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. What was the one I have this one that adds a whole bunch of little helpers. Oh, I got to go back to install. Sorry. That adds a whole bunch of little helpers that is kind of like, if I can find it here. I don't even see it. I thought I had one on here. It's called, I don't remember now. That's a bummer. Maybe it's not an extension. Is it a NuGet package? I think it's an extension. It's this extension that has like a whole bunch of stuff that's sort of like Resharper, or CodeRush, but it's not. It's not, and it doesn't have everything. I've never used CodeRush. CodeRush is made by DevExpress, I believe, who are the sponsors of the Blazor Roadshow, the shirt I'm wearing here. And everybody says it's a really good tool. And you have a few of Mads's Web Essentials and Power Tools and stuff like that. Mads just like turns out the stuff. He just creates all kinds of cool things. So let's see. So what do I want to do next? I don't even know what I want to do next. CodeRush also stream on Twitch. Oh, that's cool. How about that? They have a stream, huh? All right. So let's see. What do I want to do next? I wanted to... What else can we do to make testing easier? So I've got some naming convention. I could go through and... I think if I go through and start renaming this, everybody's just going to leave the stream and say, well, that's it. We're getting got the point of that. I don't know how long this raid thing lasts. Sooner or later, you're going to want to go back to Fritz, who's the master of all things streaming and coding, and you're going to go back to seeing him. I probably need to write some more tests, actually. Or I could write some more code. Why don't I write some more code? I got a few more minutes left. And I'm going to write some code. So let me look at, so the idea, let's go back to this orchestrator. So I use the pattern of orchestrators, and I have this thing called get history. And the get history, does it do everything I need it to do? It does, actually. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm creating this website. And the website is going to have a little UI where I talk about, I'll add to a database all of the different episodes of the stream and what I talked about, so that the archive link would be included in that, and we can search and we can find where something was talked about in an episode. Is it really important? I don't know. As you guys know from watching streams, you need a code base to work on. So that's the code base I'm going to work on. So this is gonna, let's see, add search criteria. Yeah, that's fine. So I think what I want to do is probably add this to the UI. So the search orchestrator goes down, and it's called by, in my ASP.NET. What is this called? ASP.NET. I guess that's what I called it. I don't remember calling it that. Down in here in my controllers, I have the home controller, and the home controller gets the history that's going to be in the database, and it gets up and it returns it to here. So what I think I want to do, this is a get history result. Oh, right. I have to make that into generic. I haven't even done that yet. So there's some things, if you look at my code base, which I guess I can say is, where is my code base? Let's go to here in case anybody wants to find it. I guess it would be stream website. So here is my code base, and I'll put it in there in case you want to take a look. Now, the thing I want to sort of warn about when you're looking in there is there's some bad stuff in here. There's some bad stuff in here, not bad, not terrible, but there's some things in here that would not be the way I want to do it. For instance, I have repositories, and repository is a great example of something where you can use generics. But I didn't use generics because I created one repository, and so it's sort of hard-coded. I also have this result object, which is this thing here. And this also should be generic, but it's not because it was like the first one, and I kind of want to go through on this stream and say, like, how would I get to this? And so the next time I need one, I'm going to say, oh, you know, I'm sort of pretending here, but let's go back and make it generic so I can reuse it, right? Okay, so that's the idea. So this thing is going to get this. So what I want to do is I want to return history dot, the view is going to be called, I already have a view for index, and I want to cheat and use the tooling to display this. So I think what I want to do is I'm going to say the name, I'm going to call this like fake. I'll show you what I'm thinking about here. And then I'm going to have the history.data. The data that comes out of there is the results, and that's what I want to have. And I'm going to create a new view. Then I'm going to copy it out of this fake view because I'm lame. And then this UI is going to use just sort of razor stuff because I'm going to basically build future UIs for this thing later. And that would be Blazor and Angular and all kinds of stuff. So let's just add this view. And this view is going to be named index. That's interesting. I thought the view would be called fake. That kind of surprises me, but okay. Maybe it didn't matter. Maybe I could have done this anyway. So I'm going to say this is going to be a, what is it, like a list template, and the model class is going to be a episode, should be like a episode, list episode, where is it? Can I filter this? Episode, no, I don't want that. What is this thing? All right, it is show history result. Oh God, right. I renamed it and I called it show history instead of, history instead of episode. But you know, naming is so important. You got to get the naming right on everything, right? And if you don't, it really causes trouble. Let's see. Let's go to show history DTO. And if I do that, my whole purpose here is I'm being lazy. And in being lazy, I'm going to generate this UI, which is taking a while. And then Come on. Okay, cool. So the whole point was because I was lazy and didn't want to write this code. And that's fine, because if I go back to my home controller now, I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to go to this view. Oh, no, not that. Sorry. I'm going to go over here, because I already have an index view, and it has some stuff in here, and right here, and this isn't going to look terrible. I'm just going to stick this in there for now and see what happens. Class table. Why doesn't it like table? Did I forget the end? Oh, look at that. Copy and paste fail. Yeah, copy and paste fail. I forgot to take, I thought I took the whole thing. Let's just go from here to here and stick it in this thing. Marcus Voice Programmer says, I usually get caught out with the plural version of words against the singular regarding name convention. Oh, yeah. Oh, totally. All the time, especially when I'm doing entity framework versus database tables and you know, like that kind of stuff. And yeah, it gets kind of messy. So I need to add a model attribute. I don't have one in here now. So I think I'm just going to stick this up in here. Trying to do this like the sort of quick and dirty way. I will probably fix this later and change it. But I'm trying to do things like sort of iteratively. And so now let's just see if that works. And of course, I'm going to run this. And this is where we do like, come on, come on, come on, you can do it. Oh. Here it is. Look at that. Oh my God. Hold it. Look at this. Check out the archives, right? The only thing I had in the database table is the word test. But now I can put details in here. Of course, this list, I can get rid of that whole thing. I'm not going to have that on there. And so this is sort of what my stream, I'm creating a website for the stream. And so there'll be links to all the different places. I got to figure out how to do this. This is where I need to reach out to Fritz and the great people that watch his stream probably, because I want to find out if there's a way to get, and this will tell me like I am live, and these links will sort of become different, and it'll say like, click on this because Swami is live on Twitch right now. And when I'm not live, it'll say I'm not live. And I'll bet there's a way to do that. I don't know. So let's just go back, and I'm kind of wrapping up this show because it's 1 o'clock, and I like to keep things to about an hour because I have to get back to work, and I know a lot of viewers do too. Now, a lot of you guys are just hanging out with Fritz for a while and watching the good stuff he does. Let's see if I have my live. I thought, oh, there it goes. It's refreshing. The first time, it took me a while yesterday. I hadn't done this in a while, and I wired up, what's it called? Code, what do you call it? Browser link and all this kind of stuff. And so now the pages get refreshed when I make changes, and there it is. So now I'm going to have a URL, I'm going to have a title of a show and details and things like that. And I think it's going to be pretty neat. I'm probably going to run out of space here. That's going to be the hard part. So I'll have to figure out, I'll probably make these smaller. These are huge. They don't really need to be. This is just, you know, rough UI stuff for now. So before I do anything else, I'm going to check in my code and say more unit. I say added Fluent Assertions. I hope you liked Fluent Assertions. I hope you liked the show. Do me a favor, please, if you're watching on archives on YouTube, throw me a thumbs up and subscribe on YouTube. If you're watching me on Twitch, Mixer, please come back again and watch me live. Follow me. Come back again live. I had a lot of fun. Thank you so much for all the cool input I got from so many people. Copper Beardy, thank you. I appreciate you wanting to come back. Marcus Voice. I just want to shout out to Voltskrot. I think I'm saying that right. Voltskrot, probably. Who all am I missing here? Angry Little Hamster threw in a comment. And thanks to Csharp Fritz. I don't know if he's the one who executed this raid thing. I don't know how that stuff works. One day I'm going to learn about all the cool Twitch stuff that goes on. DNI Stream, thank you for all the stuff, and Jess Chadwick was there, and also, of course, my friend Space Shot is here and stuff like that. So thank all you guys for coming out. I'm going to wrap it up. I hope you have a great day. Hope to see you again soon. I'm going to go back to work. There's a new message here. Let's see if I'm missing it. Thank you for the stream, Mike Holloway. Thank you so much for coming on Shwami Streams, where we do code, fun, a little bit of chaos. And sometimes there's more chaos than others. Today, I think it went all right. I think there wasn't too much chaos. Thank you so much. I'm going to wrap it up there, and see you guys next week.